I know for many of you, Hurricane Helene, as well as the upcoming hurricanes, has really turned life upside down for you. And in times like these, there's like so many factors that are influencing our health and our overall wellness, and I want to kind of dig into that in this video. I truly believe there's ways that you can support yourself naturally, even without having access to many types of amazing resources that can be supportive to your body's recovery and stress levels and even experience of the trauma itself. So when I started seeing footage of people swimming through toxic water, gasoline had just been poured through, and just knowing that people are in like utter survival mode, I wanted to step in and kind of give my best take for those of you who are going to be trying to recover from this level of stress. I'm going to give my best tips from recovering from something as traumatic as this hurricane, with sort of a gut first approach, more of an alternative, holistic, health-minded approach, so that even in the midst of chaos, you can have some clarity as to how you can be supporting your health and overall well-being. Hi, my name is Selena from Wholeness Campaign. I make videos on gut health, detoxification, and non-toxic living for those of you who are trying to heal from chronic illness naturally. In this video, I just want to kind of express some of my concerns for the hurricane survivors in a time like this, where especially they will be receiving lots of aid, they're going to be receiving lots of support. I'm going to narrow in on the things I think are most important for those of you who are recovering from this tragedy. I have a lot of empathy to offer, but I also want to empower you with some tips, some health-minded tips to consider in the midst of your recovery period. Okay, I just want to kind of acknowledge first that I was not somebody who experienced this. It almost seems a little bit naive for me to be making this video because it did not come close to even touching it. I didn't experience the wild craziness that was going on. The last several days, I have been seriously on a binge of watching videos just to kind of wrap my head around what is actually going on, because I think that the news is not offering very clear answers for people. And honestly, you guys, it is like so overwhelming and so mind-boggling to watch. Don't ask why I've been watching it almost every single waking moment of my day, but I feel almost like somehow connected to it in some way. My heart is just like aching for these people who are in these really dire situations, and I'm like wanting to see the conclusion. And I know that it's going to be a really long, prolonged journey for a lot of people. It's hard to talk about. Honestly, my husband had to cut me off last night because I was like starting to like build stress in my own self, and it is extremely stressful to watch what's been going on. Nevertheless, to actually be in it, but I want to be clear that I am not in it. This is just me coming almost as like a little bit of an outside perspective, seeing what I'm seeing, but I want to just offer my tips, my advice. If you were in the route of like having to escape Hurricane Helene and you're maybe interested in a more holistic approach to your health, I want to kind of give some tips for this. So obviously there's like a million factors here. There's the stress of it, there's the environmental toxins effect of it, and then there's like your physical body and what potentially you've had to endure if you were somebody who had to actually escape the hurricane or you were caught in the midst of it. There's a level of trauma, but there's also these physical needs, these real physical needs that are now people realize that I'm watching online aren't completely being met in the ways that are needed. But obviously, I want to give the caveat that obviously in a situation as dire as this, you're not really thinking about healthy food. Like I talk about a lot here on my channel, like the most ideal things, like really like what you should kind of be like striving towards. But in a situation like this, it's not really going to apply. You're really going to be drinking whatever water you can for survival. You're going to be eating whatever you can for survival, whatever's provided and whatever's like sometimes whatever you had in your house. I know I've heard several stories of people who are just locked in their house, like with no way out to, and no electricity, no reception to call anybody, with little to no food. I know some people went days without food because they just didn't have things in their house, or they escaped somewhere that didn't have any food and they've just been hiking for literally days. Trying to find someplace. From what people are saying, North Carolina, Western North Carolina, Asheville area has become almost like a third world country. Because roads have been completely washed out. You know, they're in the process of restoring like cell towers and things like that, but it's taking a while to fully get things back up and running. So I want to just say that obviously I understand this is not going to be like the most ideal situation, but that being said, I want to kind of share what I think would be really helpful if you have gotten to shelter, if you've gotten to a place of obviously maybe not full recovery, you've gotten to a place where you can start to think about managing your stress levels. How am I actually doing? Kind of like that place in survival mode, maybe a step out of survival mode. Like, what do you actually do once you're there? And honestly, you guys, most of my tips here are going to radically have nothing to do with, the supplements you could purchase, the food you could be eating from a local farmer. At this point, I truly believe it's all about stress management. And I think the reality of when you're healing chronic illness, with new to my channel, this is something that I talk about a lot here. And so much of sickness can actually be a stress response in the body. It can be a nervous system response. And so stressful events can also be very triggering for people who are recovering from chronic illness. Honestly, I think that the best, most stress relieving practices can be done without any spent money, without any supplement, without anything that's gonna cost you effort and energy. It's really gonna come down to this retraining work that you're doing in your mind of coming out of survival mode, because obviously you were in survival mode, and what can happen is if your body stays in a state of chronic stress, you carry that in with you to other situations. You're having the same stress response to things that aren't actually that stressful. This is actually what PTSD literally is. So just to give some practicals here, breathing exercises can be really underrated, but just literally getting into a place of, maybe you're not completely quiet, maybe there's people around, maybe it's busy, but getting to a place where you're consistently like taking deep breaths. If you're able to find quiet, if you're able to find maybe some music, just getting away, stepping away just for a minute from the busyness, the stressful decision making, and just taking some deep breaths can go a long way. Another thing that I really love to do is speak to my inner child like it is a person. So I will actually start to give my little child compassion and empathy for experiences that it's been through. It can actually start to lift the stress and help me to come out of survival mode. This is obviously in my own day-to-day stresses, but this would relate for anybody who's gone through some extreme traumatic event, is getting in the framework that we are not putting more pressure on ourselves, but being very compassionate, very empathetic, talking to your little child inside of you like you would talk to a little kid, being very gentle, not putting too much pressure. That's part of why I'm not going to mention tons and tons of tips here for what you should do to fix your health right now, is because what it mostly comes down to is of really getting to the place of relaxation and rest. And as you guys know, I'm really passionate about the gut-brain connection, because I really believe that your digestive system controls so much of how our brain functions, how anxiety, PTSD, depression, how all of that manifests. So as much as you possibly can, choosing the foods that are going to be the more nourishing foods for your gut microbiome is going to help you so much mentally. And obviously, depending on what you have access to, this is going to vary for everybody. But if you have the ability to have some level of soup brought to you, whatever, packaged, homemade, whatever, honestly, I think that's going to be a step above what oftentimes I'm seeing thrown out to hurricane survivors, which is like Lay's chips and granola bars and highly processed foods. I'm not saying this because it needs to be this like high standard you attune to in a time of crisis. That's absolutely not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to add more stress. But what I am saying is that what you fuel your body with is going to directly influence your mind and your brain's capacity to recover from this stressful event. And so this goes for any type of trauma, but really getting into the mindset of like, okay, what basic choices could I make right now that could improve my mental health, that could then launch me forward into really refining my health going forward in the future. Hey, I'm going to plug my quick guide to gut health here, because if you're interested in taking a deep dive in how to really heal and repair the tissue in your gut lining so that you can receive all of these mental benefits that I'm talking about, check out the link in the description. It is completely free. It's 10 of my best tips, and I honestly live by these. I swear by them. I really think that because around 90% of our serotonin receptors are in the gut lining, that so much of our mental health could be benefited from eating the right foods, the foods that are going to be targeting healing of that digestive lining. So that's in the description box below. I want to jump into a couple practical tips just for if you are looking for a place to just get started in holistically managing your health after an event like this, so that you have a little bit of clarity. And again, this is more of a gut health first approach. I like to take a look at the root of all illness, whether it's a physical illness or you experience mentally. I do believe all of it. I do believe that the root cause resides in the gut. There's a few root causes, but our our brain actually influences our gut and our gut influences our brain. In stressful situations, stress hormones that are released actually have a negative impact on your beneficial bacteria in the gut. So replenishing beneficial bacteria, and that's actually going to be one of my practical tips, is going to be having a probiotic on you, even if it's not the best, fermented brine, all the things I talk about here, kefir, cultured dairy, all that stuff. But if you can get your hands on a probiotic, just start getting your immune system going, getting one piece of the puzzle kind of knocked out in a sense. You could just grab some sauerkraut from the store if you see that. Adding that in would be a great way to support your mental health and physical health in this process. I am going to just plug hydration here too as a practical tip. Berkey has a great bottle that honestly I wish they were like just giving these out to hurricane survivors, because it comes with a primer that you can literally use in a lake or water, anything. You can actually prime this without the use of running water and use it without the use of running water. So it's like literally just a small water bottle, and as you drink from it, it gets filtered. So you don't need like endless water bottles. You can take it on the go. You could empty it if you need less weight, and you can just like take it with you. That would be something that I feel like everybody should just have on hand. But if you can have access to some level of clean water and just keeping yourself hydrated, I'm going to just kind of go over here what I think the best non-perishable gut-friendly foods are going to be. If you've been a part of this kind of wreckage, you have probably been handed lots of processed food, lots of canned food, lots of just food that's like non-perishable. And I just want to say that out of all of that, if you can steer towards the higher protein foods, the tunas, the sardines, even better, anything that's going to be high in protein. When you can't ensure quality in vegetables, I think honestly leaning heavy on the carnivore type foods is going to be better than leaning on vegetables. That's just me. I'm not a vegan, and I honestly really believe there's so much more nutrition in that. That's what I would go for. And then obviously this is like a massive rebuilding effort, because there's so many environmental toxins that have now been polluted in the area of North Carolina. Anywhere really where these hurricanes have kind of wrecked main public facilities, you're going to see really high levels of environmental toxins. So detoxing is going to be a huge piece of this puzzle if you've experienced this really close to home. And you guys know I talk a lot about heavy metal chelation. I will link a video on heavy metal chelation if you're interested in diving deeper, because heavy metals are a really big factor of what gets stored in your body, in your tissues, and can cause chronic health issues in the future. And so if you're trying to be proactive, I think addressing heavy metals after an event like this would be really, really good. You're also potentially going to be exposed to lots of chemicals. So this is really where I would say taking lots of detox baths as much as possible. If you're able to swim in the ocean, that's even better. But building up your tolerance in a sauna would helping to kind of sweat out those toxins. Your body will actually start to push them out through your skin. And like I say every single video, enemas, you guys. That can be one of the best ways to really start to clear maybe parasites that were picked up from walking through certain really polluted areas, swimming in polluted waters and things like that. Enemas, coffee enemas. I think taking a good zeolite binder is going to be super helpful. You can actually spray this on your skin if you've noticed rashes from, I've seen people like who were swimming in this just have like skin conditions start spiking up, and I'm just like kind of watching us from the outside, and I really believe something like a zeolite binder sprayed on it, or even iodine painted over it, is one way to really support just the level of toxicity that you've been exposed to. Also putting some like tallow with maybe a little bit of lavender in it would be helpful. And I want to just put a plug here on mold, because you're going to start to see this, especially in Florida after hurricanes. You see this a lot, just the mold rate skyrocket. I made an entire mold series on my YouTube channel if you're interested in checking it out and going deeper into how to really effectively remediate your home, how much it really costs if you're looking at it realistically, and how to do it the right way instead of just doing it the cheap way. So if you're interested in that, go check out that. I'll leave the playlist linked in the description box. But mold is a very common thing that comes out of hurricane disasters like this. And if your house stayed intact, you're going to probably want to get it tested for mold. I would recommend using an ERMI test. to just test the dust in the house and see where the house is kind of at after all of the moisture. As a baseline, it would be great to get yourself a dehumidifier and remove all wet drywall. So if you can do that on your own or you hire a remediation company, removing the wet drywall is going to be like the first place to start. And honestly, my mold series kind of covers a lot of it, so you can go there and check that out. But I just want to mention this because mold can be a really big influencer on people's health as they're recovering from chronic illness. For a lot of people, they would say it kind of was a make or break it for their health. And so it would be really helpful to kind of pay attention to your home, your living situation, making sure that it is safe. This was a weird video, you guys. It was weird for me to do because I'm not there. I'm just seeing all of this stuff online. But I did want to put it out there in case anybody's experiencing the repercussions from Hurricane Helene. And I just want you to know that I feel for you. I'm so sorry that you've experienced what you have, and I just want to be a resource here on my channel for those of you who are trying to heal, really get to the root cause, and take care of their bodies holistically after something like this. If you got any value out of this video, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. It's my goal with this channel to take you from confusion and overwhelm in your healing journey to clarity and peace so that you can heal your gut and conquer your chronic symptoms naturally. Thanks for watching.